and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where I've actually been to London this morning. I met up with Mark, so that was all good, even though the weather is extremely windy, and I very nearly got blown away as I walked across London Bridge. But I'm back now, and that means it's puzzle time for me. And this puzzle on screen was first published in May 2021. It's called Renban Sandwich Sudoku, and it's by Rocky Rower, the brilliant American math teacher. And you might say, well, why is it appearing today? And this is quite a cool story. We had it re-recommended to us very recently, so well done, Joe, for sending it in. Because Joe noticed that our software has evolved over the last couple of years, and we now have the ability to showcase this puzzle. Now, I think what Joe is referring to is the fact that when this puzzle was first published, we couldn't write 0 into the cells in the software, whereas now we can. And I've seen in the instructions it says any integer. It says an integer is any whole number including 0. So I think in this puzzle we may have to put some zeros outside the grid. And that would have been impossible in the old world, but thanks to the miracle of Sven, who programs our software and is always improving it, it is now doable. So we're going to get the chance to try this puzzle, which has, I think it may have a 100% approval rating actually from all that time ago. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to try it out. Do support Sven, by the way. You can get our software. It's called Sudoku Pad on all major forums, and it's just a couple of bucks. And Sven deserves all the support in the world for what he does for the Sudoku community. Now, what else can I tell you about before we kick off and I read you the rules of Rocky Rower's puzzle? I was about to say new puzzle there. That would have been wrong. Let me do some birthdays. Declan, over there in Pennsylvania. Declan, you've turned 15 today, if I'm not mistaken. Your dad, Steve, wrote to us, and I believe your whole family watches Cracking the Cryptic. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. And Declan, I hope you have a brilliant 15th birthday today. And then Lois hasn't turned 15, but Lois has turned 25, just 10 more. And I know this because Lois, your partner Joe, wrote to us. And Joe said that you deserve lots of chocolate cake, Lois, for all you've done recently. I do not know what that means, but I certainly applaud the sentiment. Chocolate cake is, of course, essential on one's birthday, but only if it has the correct icing ratio with cake, which is 1:1, as we all know. And then, of course, the other thing we've got going on is, let me show you this, which is Alice's Adventures in Sudokuland. This is our Patreon reward for March, courtesy of the Paint by Numbers Institute. So this is Panthera, Montinox and TheAsylum. And I have to say, I've been so pleased with the feedback on these puzzles, because people are not just loving the puzzles, they even love the type of puzzles. These are all Japanese sum Sudoku. So these are the types of Sudoku when you finish the puzzle, you get a picture, and people are loving that. And people are really loving all the poems, because of course it's themed on Alice. There is a poem that accompanies each puzzle, and it really is just a delightful, delightful hunt. And many of you have been getting your kids involved in it as well, which I really, really like to see. And well done to Benny Ung, Ferdinand Stam, Brian Chang, Mariska van Bruchem, Dominicio Tudor, C373S, I don't know how I meant to say that correctly, Daryl Gilbert, Matt Jenkins, Sandra and Nala. Now I've got to show you this picture. Look, that's Nala the dog, who apparently helps Sandra in solving the whole hunt. That is a very, very cute picture indeed. I hope I've got that in the right place on the screen, because that is definitely, it's one of the best pictures we've ever shown. Brighton Benson, James Barrett, Lindsay Pickup, Peter Reitman, Andrew Nicholson, Bartek Strakowski, Franco Seben, Paul Wright and Jay Lawhorn. All of you sent in the correct entries. Very well done indeed. Now, let's have a look at this 2-year-old puzzle and see what Rocky Rower came up with us way back when. These are the rules. Normal Sudoku, rules apply. Brackets, fill every row, column and 3x3 box with the digits 1 to 9 once each. So yes, okay, so you can see we've got a sort of interior Sudoku here, surrounded on all sides by a perimeter. So we've got a normal Sudoku rules is applying in that bit of the grid. Numbers outside the grid, brackets, which must be deduced, are the sums of the digits sandwiched between the 1 and the 9 in that row or column. Okay, well, let's stop there and check we understand so-called sandwich Sudoku rules. So if that square there was an 8, then we would know that in this column, wherever we put the 1 and the 9, let's put a 9 there and a 1 there, those two digits would have to sum up to 8 in order, because the digits sandwiched between the 1 and the 9 have to add to 8. Now in this puzzle, I'm guessing, the problem with sandwich Sudoku is that you can have some very big clues. You could have a 35 clue outside the grid and put the 1 and the 9 in the perimeter of the Sudoku, and then those digits would sum to 35. Some of you will have deduced that already because you will be familiar with the secret. So now what we don't have is the ability to write 35 into things, so we're going to have to improvise if we need to put double digits in the perimeter. But double digits are certainly in theory possible as sandwich Sudoku clues. Now, each purple line contains a set of non-repeating consecutive integers. Right. Okay, sorry, I'm just pausing there over the word integer. Normally when I read purple lines it says digits, but I think I understand why it's saying integers. These integers can appear in any order. An integer is any whole number including 0. Right, so I think this is catering for the possibility that we could have, I don't know, if that was 15, that could be 16, for example. So if we said each purple line must contain consecutive digits in any order, people might say, well, a digit is a single digit, it's not a double digit number. Yeah, that would probably be a fair criticism. So the possibility, but an integer can be a double digit number. So, right, what this is allowing for is that in the perimeter of the grid we can have double digit sandwich Sudoku clues, and indeed 0 as a sandwich Sudoku clue, because imagine that was a 0, then what we're being told is that in this column the 1 and the 9 are in adjacent cells, and there are 0 digits sandwiched between them. So what a fascinating puzzle. Literally no digits, just a few lines sprinkled around the grid. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. I think this puzzle only has 3 stars out of 5 for difficulty, so it might be approachable. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. My eyes are drawn firstly to this line, which is very long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 integers long. Well, yes, I mean, and indeed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, okay. Those cells there are interesting, because those cells there, they all have to be different because they're on a purple line, and a purple line contains no repeats. So they must be the digits 1 to 9. So in effect, this M I've now drawn in the grid is an extra region of the Sudoku. It's akin to a 3x3 box in that it's got to contain the digits 1 to 9 once each. Now, that of course begs the question as to what to do with those 4 cells, which, okay, I think there are 2 possibilities, aren't there? Either there is a 0 on this line, in which case we're going to have, let's imagine that was a 0, these would be 10, 11 and 12 in some order. Or there's no 0, and then those 4 digits would have to be 10, 11, 12 and 13 in some order. Now, which of those is likely? And the answer to that is I don't really have a clue, I don't think. Sorry, I'm just waiting for inspiration to strike, and it's not striking. So I know there must be a 1 and a 9 in the blue cells. And that's typically how I approach sandwich Sudokus, is let's find where the 1s and 9s have to go. But if that digit was a 1 or a 9, you know, you could hide the 1s and the 9s in positions on this blue region where they don't affect the sandwich clues that are forced to be, that are sort of involved in those clues, which feel like they're the important ones because they interfere the most with the blue line. Okay, what about then? Okay, what about the fact that that cell and that cell have to be the same number? Because in row 5, wherever the 1 and the 9 are, it doesn't change whether you look at it from the left or the right hand side of the grid. So those two digits are the same. And so so this is either 10, 11, no, it was either, yes, it's either 10, 11, 12, 13 or 0. And if it was 0, that one, wow, okay, it's weird actually. If the sandwich total for this row is 0, it much more profoundly affects the short purple line than it does the long purple line. Because if that's a 0, let's just put 0 in there, this line has to contain consecutive digits. These are all Sudoku digits, so these have to be 1, 2 and 3, but we have to make sure the 1 and the 9 are adjacent in this row. So you'd have to put the 1 there and the 9 there, and these would be a 2, 3 pair. So then, okay, so then you get 1, 2, 3 and 9. Not in there, so 1, 2, 3 and 9 would have to be in there, because we know the blue has to contain 1, 2, 3 and 9. That would be a 0. These digits would have to be 10, 11, 10, 11 and 12 then. And we've got the same thing going on in column 5, haven't we? That's very suspicious. Those two squares have to be the same. In fact, look, let's make those two green and these two yellow, just to fix that in our minds. So let me think about this. Sorry. The top right, that digit there, because 3 of the digits on this purple line are real Sudoku digits. Okay, I see. Right, sorry, and I probably should have got this much quicker. But green and yellow are either 10 or 0 only, because although this line can have 11s, 12s, 13s outside the grid, it can't have an 11, 12 or a 13 here in yellow, because that would make this an 11, 12 or a 13. And imagine that was an 11, well, how do we fill this purple line up? We can't put 10 on it. It's only allowed to have Sudoku digits on it. So the only double digit number that yellow can be is 10, and the only double digit number that green can be is 10. So I wonder whether what we're meant to do is to figure out why. It's either going to be that you can't put 00. Well, what it's going to be is there's going to be some juxtaposition of yellow and green that doesn't work, but I don't know quite how to think about that. What would happen if yellow and green were both 0? That immediately fails. that immediately fails because that would be a 9. If that's a 0, let's do that. So if that's 0, 0, 0, this would be 1, that would be 9. We get 2 9s in box 5. So that doesn't work. So you can never, so it's not possible for both of these to be 0. But is it possible for both of these to be 10? That's the question that that now feels to me like it's the next natural question. And the answer to that is I don't know, and I also don't know how to write 10 into this square. I will do it using, I think what's going to happen if I write 1 0, it's going to, is it going to put the 0? Yeah, it's going to put the 0 first. So what we need to do is perhaps do some trickery. Let's do that. That is a 10 outside the grid. Okay, so I'm going to put 10 there and 10 here, which is going to be done the same way. Now, right, so now both of those are 9 8 7, aren't they? By plain old purple logic, purple line logic. So, oh, nearly breaks it. Well, oh, the other thing that does, you know, if you do go for 10 in both of these, where do you put 10 in blue? Sorry, where do you not do both? Where do you put 10 in blue? Where do you put 7, 8, 9 in blue? And the answer to that is in those squares, exactly. They have to be a 7, 8, 9 triple, which is quite interesting. So now, oh, One second, let me just think about this. I can see I'm going to have a stripe of 2, 3, 5. That looks like it works actually, because then you're going to get. What I'm thinking now is where does 1 go in blue in this version of the world? Because that's a mildly interesting question, in the sense that I know that there's a 9 in there, and I know there's a 9 in there. And I know that each of these sandwich totals has to be 10. So if there is a 1 in one of these, and there is in one of those blue stripes, that's quite a long way from the 9 in its row. So if we imagine putting a 1 there, that won't work, because the 9, the furthest or the closest the 9 could be to this 1 would be here. And that would put a 4-cell sandwich having to add up to 10, and doesn't work because you can't use the 1 in the sandwich. So you've got 2, 3, 4, and 5 as the minimum, which add up to 14. So I can see that if we do have 2 10s, you have to put a 1 in one of those 2 squares. You have to, and only one of those 2 squares, because you can't repeat a digit in blue. So let's put it there. Those 3 digits now, we can't do a 4-digit total adding to 10, so those 3 digits have to be 2, 3, and 5. But it's the only way of making 10 in 3 digits without using a 1. But this looks like it works, doesn't it? Because now that's going to be a 9. And then in this column, I do have the latitude. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's fascinating. Okay, no, it doesn't work. I was wrong. It doesn't work, because where do I put the 1 in this column now? I have to put the 1 in one of these 2 cells, either there or there. Now if I try and put it here, which is quite a natural place to do that, because that purple line would work with a 1, 2, 3 triple. But I can't put the 9 anywhere here, where I'm going to be able to create a 10 sandwich, because I've only got 7s, 8s and 9s to play with. So the 1 can't go there and has to go here. And now, well, where am I going to put the 9 to make this work? And I don't think it can go anywhere. It certainly can't go here, because this will be a 7 or an 8. This will be a minimum of 2. And that can't be a 1. So I'm going to break the total. So I have to put the 9 here, but now this square is either, well, there's just no number that can go with 2, 3 or 5. The only options are going to be 7, 8 and another 5. And it's going to crack. It's going to repeat a digit in the column. So this is not correct. And that means that one of either yellow or green is 0. Okay, that's going to be it, isn't it? he says. I'm not sure why, but I think that feels like it's going to force some magic, because if one of these is 0, there's a 1 in one of those two squares, and there's a 9 in one of those two squares. Hang on, I'm having trouble visualizing what this does. In fact, let's just put it in. Let's say that one's 0 and that one's 10. What is that doing? That's putting 9 here, and it's putting 1 here. It's putting 2, 3 here, and then over here we've got 9, 9, 8, 7, haven't we? Nine, 8, 7. And okay, that doesn't work. Okay, that's absolutely beautiful. Right, the way to spot this quickly is to do Sudoku, of all things. Right, let me show you. Let me show you how to do this little beautiful thing that's built into this puzzle. Okay, so we know one of these is a 0. And we know that wherever the 0 goes, it will have a 1, 2, 3 on its line. We know one of these is a 10, and that one we know will have 7, 8, 9 on its line. So the central digit by Sudoku is 4, 5, or 6. Now, we said before that because one of these is a 0, one of those has to be a 1. And in order to make the 0 work, that means one of these two squares is a 9. Well, it can't be that one by this little line, because if that was a 9, it cannot go on a consecutive sequence of 3 digits. If that digit is a 4, 5, or a 6, even if it's 6, we cannot get to 9 in only 2 more cells. It just won't work. So in fact, we can now, I've done this the wrong way round, haven't I? You can see that because this can't be the 9, because this is a 4, 5, or 6, whatever the orientation of yellow and green, that's the 9. And if that's the 9, that's the 1. This is a 2, 3 pair. That's the 0. This is the 10, so the green is 10. That means this is 7, 8, 9. It means that, I'm not sure what that means yet. That's definitely not 9. That's a 0. Let's try and pick off the easy wins. This is a 1, 0. And that 10 there is on this line. Right, okay, so we know those two digits now, or those two integers, are consecutive with 10, aren't they? They're 11 and 12. I can do that. I can put 1s there, and then in the centre I'll put 1 and 2. So one of these is 11, one of these is 12 in my new nomenclature. Okay, now I can see that can't be 9, because if that was 9, that would be a 7, 8 pair before you could get to the well, in fact, you can't put 1 on okay. So perhaps, yes, this has to be the 9, doesn't it? Because that digit cannot be a 1, because it's on a 4, 5, 6 purple line. So even if this was a 4, the minimum this could be would be a 2. So the earliest the 1 can be in this column is there. And if this was 9, and we did 7 or 8 plus 2 plus 4, we're breaking the 10 total. So that's the 9. This is a 7, 8 pair. That, I can see 4, 6 might work there for a 2-digit total. But why couldn't that be a 1? If that's a 1, we have to go 2, 3, 5. 5, 3, 4, 2. Might work. Don't know. Okay. Okay, so how do we how do we do this? We could say that I don't know quite how to do this. Is it something to do with these clues? One of these is 11, one of these is 12. Nine is in one of those cells. 1, 2, 3, 9. So these are 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. But I know that digit's definitely in the sandwich, isn't it? 5, 3, 2. I think this is how it's going to look. 5, 3, 2. Sorry, 2, 3, 5 here, 4 here. Then that rem band works. This becomes 6, 7, 8. This has to be a 1. Is there anything else? No, the only other thing that might work, actually, thinking about it, is put the 1 there and make that 4, 6, which would make that 5. Why is that wrong? I don't know. I don't know. There might be 2 ways of doing this column. I think there's a 1 in one of those 2 positions, but I don't know which one it is. So, how on earth? That digit, that central digit there, has to be in blue somewhere, so it's got to be in one of those 3 cells. Is this really obvious? Am I missing a trick or 2 here? Is this obvious? It probably is somehow, some way. But I'd love to know exactly how I'm meant to do this now. Come on, Simon, what's the trick? What has the American math teacher stored up in the puzzle? This is the digits 1 through 9. That's a 10. It does feel like I should be working on this total, doesn't it? I can see one of those 2 squares is a 1, so I suppose neither of those 2 squares is a 1. Does that matter? Don't think so. Could we... Oh, does it matter if you put the 1 here, then you're going to have a 1 up there. This is an 11 or a 12. Ah, okay, maybe... No, I'm wrong. I was trying to think about whether I could argue that this was going to have to span the middle box, this 11 or 12. Because I couldn't fit a 1 and a 9 into just there. So the 9 in this row, if it is here, but then I could put 1 there. I think that doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's nonsense. Okay, so there's got to be something else that we can spot here. What's it going to be? What about... I presume it can't be these little tiny ones. It's not obvious to me. Oh no! That's 4, 5 or 6. There's no other Sudoku. I don't think there is Sudoku we can do on those digits. But the problem is that these digits could be as low as 2 or as high as 8. If there was a... Oh no, hang on, that can't be 2, can it? Because then that would be 3. So they can't be as low as 2. That's not true. Ah, Ah, right. So what about if we tried to put 3 on this line? 3 would have to go there. Let's put that in. So this would be a 4 or a 5. But 3 I think can go on the line. So 3, 5, 4, 2, 1. How does that hurt the world? There's just no clues. There's no clues that stop that from being correct. What about that? Okay, let's try it the other way. If that is a 1, that has to be 4, 6, and this has to be 5. Is it something to do with the fact that you have to... I think we've got to put 7 and 8 over there, because in order to make this 10 total, it's either 3 digits, which will have to be 2, 3, 5, with a 1 here, and that will put a 4 there, 3, 5, 4, and this will be 6, 7 and 8 in that version of the world. Or it's a 2-digit total, and this is 4, 6, 5, and then that still has to have, that could be the 6 though, so this always has 7 and 8 in it, always. Okay, so let's put that in and get rid of the central. There's always 7 and 8 here, so there's never 7 and 8 there, but there never was, because we've got that up there. Bobbins, okay. Alright, let's try something else then. I mean, how am I meant to use this? It's absolutely not. It's just not going to work. Don't know what that digit is, so let's delete that before I get confused by it. Maybe I haven't understood how this extra region works properly. We could say that what could we say? I don't know. I'm totally bamboozled by this. Or, oh well, the other things that might be important actually are this. One of these is 11, one of these is 12, so perhaps this one. So the one in this row is not capable of being in those squares. So there is a 1 in one of those 4 positions in box 2. Is there some reason you can't put a 1 on this line, perhaps? If you put 1 on the line, if 1's on that line, that can't be a 0. So this would have to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay. That doesn't work, does it? Because they are all single-digit totals. And there's no digit that could go in there. So 1 doesn't go on this line. Does that matter? So 1 is in one of those cells. And yeah, but okay, so I need to, if I could get rid of it, well, yeah, 1's in one of these cells, but to work with this column, it's there if it's in column 5. So 1 is in one of those 4 cells. Let me just explain this point here, because I sort of elided over that a little bit. If I do try and put 1 in any of these squares, the only way this isn't a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple is if I put 0 there outside the grid. But you can see the sandwich clue won't work then, because the 1 and the 9 would need to be in adjacent cells for there to be a 0 here. So this has to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And even if I put the 1 here, this square... Oh no, hang on. No, that's wrong, because that could be 4 and that could be 4. That 4 isn't in the grid, so it doesn't stop that being a 4. So in fact, that's total. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Good grief, what have I done there? I wanted to delete all this. Delete this. And delete these pencil marks, because that logic I just did was incorrect. All Alright, so let's try something else. Let's try... is there... I mean, I don't really... The other thing is, I don't see a difference between... Is there a reason this can't be a 1? Let's have a think about that. Is that doing something spectacularly interesting or not? For that to be the case, that has to be a 5 now. And this would have to be a 2-3 pair. That's forced. It's the only way of making 10 in a 3-digit sum when you can't use a 1 on it. So in that situation, those two squares would be a 4-6 pair. Oh, that doesn't work. Wow. Okay, well, I hadn't appreciated this at all, but it is correct. The way we've got to get to this conclusion is to now look at row 5 and say, where do 4 and 6 go? And the answer is not in enough places because we can't put them in blue, and I can't make that a Schrödinger cell, and there's no other places they can be. Wow, that's really clever. That's really very clever. Okay. So what we had to do this with more efficiency is I had to investigate this being a 1 in a little bit more detail. Yeah, it's obvious once you see it, but until you really do the investigation, it wasn't clear to me. Right, but that's great, because now the 1 in this column has to be here. And if that's a 1, this has to be a 4-6 pair. That's the only way that can work. Can't put double 5 in there, so that becomes a 5 in order to make that line consecutive. There is definitely a 1 up here. Oh, no, I still don't know what this line is, because it depends which of 4 and 6 go in the middle. So this is from 4, 6, 7 and 8. It's definitely got 7 and 8 on it. Ah, but now I know what these digits are. Those digits are 2, 3 and 5. Oh, that's underwhelming. Oh, all right, but now I'm going to change tack and come back to that digit. Because, yeah, that can't be 1. Because let's think about the nature of this 11 or 12 clue in this row. How many digits is it possible to make it up of? And the answer is a maximum of 3 cells is the sandwich. Because if we did a 4-cell sandwich, not including 1 in the sandwich, we'd be sandwiching 2, 3, 4, 5 at a minimum, which is 14. Here is a knowledge bomb. 14 is more than 11 and it's more than 12. So this is a 2-cell sandwich adding up to 11, or a 3-cell sandwich adding up to 11 or 12, obviously in both cases. Now, if that's a 1, the 9 in the row then would have to be in one of those cells, which doesn't work. Ah, so take 1 out of there. If that was a 1, the 9 would have to be here or here. Again, it doesn't work. So this is the 1. We can't put a 9 here, so that's got to be the 9. Those squares have got to add up to 11 or 12. And the digits we've got available here are 2s, 3s, 7, yeah, 7 and 8. Okay, well I can't put 7 and 8 into either of those squares. If I put 7 here and add 4 to it, what am I going to put in there to get to 11 or 12? I'd have to put 1 in, and I can't. So those two squares have got to be a 2-3 pair. And these two squares have got to be a 7-8 pair. And now we've definitely got 5. If we add... So we haven't got 9, we must have 11. So it must be 6, it must be 4. That's an 11. So this becomes an 11, and that becomes a 12. There we go. Now, in this row, look, where is the 1 going? It's a 12 sandwich, which we know is a 2 or a 3-cell sandwich. It can't be a 2-cell sandwich. Oh no, sorry, I miscounted. No, it can be a 2-cell sandwich. Oh, bobbins. Maybe that can't be a 1-2 pair. What would that do to the world? Nothing at all. Okay, that doesn't work. All right, sorry. Maybe this isn't the right clue to look at now. All right, where do 2 and 3 go by Sudoku? In box 4. They can't go there because that would repeat them in blue. So that's a 2-3 pair, which is potentially interesting. That's a 7-8 pair by Sudoku. So those squares are 4, 5 and 6, which means that square is a naked single out of... That's a 9 out of absolutely nowhere. Okay, well that means that's not a 9 because it would repeat in blue. That being a 4 means that those squares are a 6, 7, 8 triple. So these squares are a 5 and a 4. Okay. And these digits must be known now because they are the digits we have. Yeah, where does 1 go in blue? It's got to go there. So that digit is the unused digit in blue, which looks like it's 4. So there's now... Alright, so now there's no 1s up here. There's a 1 up there. But we don't know the sandwich clue. Oh, no, well, no, actually we do. The sandwich clue is there. Ah. Ah. Yeah, okay, here's... And I do know some things that are on this purple line as well, because that digit is a 7 or an 8. And that hasn't made an appearance in box 8 yet. So this digit is in that domino along with a 9. So those digits are from 7, 8 and 9, which means these digits include... Ah, it's beautiful. That is so beautiful. Look, what do they include? They must include 4 and 6. But 5, which must now be on this line, cannot go in the Sudoku grid because there's a 5 there. So that digit is a 5, which means that the 1 is there because, well, we need this domino to add to 5 now. We can't make 5 in 3 cells. It won't work. We'll blow the total up. So this has got to be a 2, 3 pair adding to 5. This is 4, 6 and either 3 or 7. So it can't be with 3. 3 is already there. So that is now 4, 6, 7. That is now 8, 9, which means that was the 8, wasn't it? So this is the 7. This column has not had a 5 in it, which must now live at the top. And probably that's not a 4 by Sudoku, using the 4 we earned there. And there has to be a 4 and a 6 into those squares. And this, right, I see. This is such a beautiful puzzle. Look. What's going on down here? That is a very interesting question because either the 9 is here and it's not there. I can tell you that much for nothing, because that would make this square a 0. And if that square is a 0, what Sudoku digit must that be? Well, the thing is, I don't know where we'd put 1 on this line, is I suppose the point I'm thinking about. I can't put 1 there because of this. So if that's 0, there'd have to be a 1 in one of those squares, and that would be a sandwich clue, and it's an invalid sandwich clue, a 1, because the only way of having 1 in the middle of a sandwich is to put 2 1s in a column, and that will break Sudoku rules. So I think that I don't think it's possible for that to be a 9. I think that's got to be an 8. That's got to be a 9. Now this is an 8, which is a much more flexible digit, unfortunately. Can that be a 4? Oh no, look here as well. Look, that digit. I hadn't noticed this. That's a 6, 7 or an 8, and we now know. Oh, do we? Yeah, we do know, because we can't repeat a digit on a purple line. That can't be an 8. So that's a 6 or a 7, so that's a 6 or a 7. That digit can't be a 4, because that we can't get to 4. 8, 7, 6, 5 is the lowest we can go. That digit can't be a 5, but it has to be a Sudoku digit. Oh. Doesn't that have to be a 6? What else could I put on this line that is a valid Sudoku digit that is not one of those cells? Nothing. Yeah, the way to see this, I suppose, is to do it longhand, isn't it? That digit is exactly one of those cells, because they are the digits we have not yet put into box 2. So it's 2, 3, 4, 6, and it has to be on a 4-cell line that's consecutive with an 8 at some point. So that is a 6, which means these are not a 6. So now that can't be a 6. Good grief, that's got to be a 7, which makes that a 7. And that digit is now either 9 or 5. Now what's going on in this column? The answer is we don't seem to know. I don't think we know. Those digits are from 2, 3 and 4. Can we do that digit? Oh look, there's all these little clues that are all of a sudden getting revealed. There's a 971. That's a 7. Which means that square, you've guessed it, is 6 or 8. That can't be a 9 because of Sudoku. So this is going this way. That's got to be a 9. Which means that digit, and that can't be double 4. Because, so we can't make 8 work. That's got to be 6 with a 2. That's doing the 2 and the 3. That's not a 2. 2 is now in one of those squares by Sudoku. 9. 9 is up here, and that's going to affect this clue, isn't it? In fact, yeah, where's the 1? Where's the 1 in this column? It's not in any of those squares. It can't be down here, because we won't be able to keep the sandwich down. So we can't put the 1 here, you can see by Sudoku. So that's got to be the 1. We must have a single digit total, which is a 5 or a 9, so it's got to be a 5. So this is 951. That does the 5 and the 4. 5 lives down here by Sudoku. This column needs 6s, 7s and 8s. Switch to those. That's got to not be that. That's 6, 7 or 8. So this digit is not, well, it's not seeing those by Sudoku, but obviously we've got to bear in mind what's possible. Now 1 can't be on this line because it won't be consecutive with any of those digits. So 1 goes there, 1 is down here, and that is a problem, isn't it? I'm thinking about this cell. Well, maybe not actually, if it's quite close. I mean, 1 can't be there. We can definitely say that, because the minimum they could add up to would be 14. And I can't make that 14, given it's got to be consecutive with a 6, 7 or an 8. So that's not 1. Oh, actually, that's not 1 by Sudoku. So this is 1. These squares... Oh, that's done it. That's done it. It's so elegantly. It fits together so cleverly. What's the minimum they could add up to? Well, it's 10. So they must add up to 10. And that is a 10. And that's because, of course, this is... We've got to make sure this line contains consecutive integers. So that's got to be 8. That's got to be... Oh, I've done it wrong. No, I've messed up. Sorry. I don't know what I've done wrong there. But that being a 9 doesn't allow this to be a 9. Oh. What on earth have I got wrong there? I don't know. The 1, the 1, the 1. That can't be a 1, so I'm adding at least 3 digits together. Oh, sorry. I could make that 9, couldn't I? That's... Oh, hang on. Now I feel like I made a mistake earlier. Did I make a mistake earlier when I was thinking about... No, it's because I was obsessed with 10, and I was right to be obsessed with 10 because 10 was the total. And 10 does have to be 2, 3, 5 as a 3-cell sandwich. Oh, phewy. No, this is fine. We're fine. That is not a 10 because that can't be a 9. But we can make a 3-cell sandwich add up to 9 if we use 2, 3 and 4. So that's what it must be. So that must be a 4. That must not be a 5. That must be a 2 or a 3. And now 9 is the sandwich. Oh, so we're not going to know quite what's going on here. So this is now not 6 because that can never be consecutive. So this has got to be, if that's 8, this has got to be 7. And if that's 7, this has got to be 8. So that becomes a 7, 8 pair. That gives me a 6 here. So 6 goes there. That becomes 7. And those two squares, we can see, have got to be a 3, 5 pair. And that might not be resolved yet. But now those squares at the top have got to be 2, 6 and 8. That's not 6. And these squares have got to be 3, 4 and 7. Ah. Okay. Oh, I see. So this is all resolved. So that gets 6, that gets 8, that's 8, that's 7. I've not been looking for 3 in the corner, but we could end up with 1 here. That's a 2, 3 pair, so that's 5, that's 3. So that's, what's that in the corner there? That's a 6. So that's not 6. Now let's see, what have we actually... We know that's a 5, because we know that's 5 is the sandwich. 9 is in one of those squares. 1 is in the corner. So how many 1s have we got? We've got all the 1s. How many 9s have we got? No, I haven't got all the 9s because I've not got the 9 in box 9 yet. I've got this clue left and this clue. Okay, so how do we make more progress now? What's the most obvious place to look? That 6 clue is done. That 7 clue is done. There must be an odd digit on this this purple line, because effectively these are consecutive digits, so there's going to be 1 odd and 1 even. Now the odd digit is either going to be 3, 7 or 5. Oh, I thought it was going to be 5 by Sudoku. It's not quite though. It depends whether that can be a 5. Okay. Oh, actually, hang on. That clue's important, isn't it? That can't be 9. Because if that was 9, that would be a 0. And then what would this be? It would have to be a 1 as a sandwich clue, which is impossible. So that's got to be 9. That's got to be 9 as the final 2 9s in the grid. And that means that digit is massive. In fact, that digit is known by using the secret, because we can use the secret on the column. And what is the secret? It's something I only tell my favourite people, but if you're watching this video, of course you're in that coterie. The secret is that any complete column of a Sudoku contains the digits 1 to 9 once each. The digits 1 to 9 add up to 45. So, what we can deduce what those cells are, because we can just deduct from 45 16. So they must add up to 29. So that is a 2 and a 9, which means that is a 28 or a 30. Oh, bobbins. It's 28 or 30. I don't. So I've got to go 0 or 8 like that. 28 or 30. And that, okay, but we can get this digit narrowed down then. Because if those added up to 28, plus 9 plus 1 is 38, that would be a 7, and that looks possible. If these added up to 30, 40, this would be a 5, and it can't be a 5 because there's a 5 here. Bingo. Right, so that is a 7. This is a 28 of all things. So this is absolutely wrong. In fact, look, the 28 and the 29 I can do normally. I can do 28, 29 like that. That 7 is doing work, so that gets 7 and 8 done. That becomes a 2. That's not a 7. There's still the possibility of a 3 in the corner. That's a 3 or a 4. And in fact, when Rocky Rower set this puzzle, there was no such thing as 3 in the corner in Cracking the Cryptic World, because I'd never said it. Then, right, so 7 is now here. is this... The odd digit that's on this is now not 7, 1 or 9. So it's either 3, which would have to go with a 3. It would have to be a 3, 4. Oh, that doesn't work. That's beautiful. Okay, look at those two digits. They are selectable from 2s, 3s and 4s. So if I do put 3 on here, I've got to put these two digits would be selected from 2, 3 and 4. And we'd have 4 digits in the row selected from just 3 different digits, which is going to repeat one of them. So that must be 5 with 6 or 4. Well, okay, I don't know how to do that, I don't think. So these are 4, 5 and 6. That can't be 6 by Sudoku. 7, we can see in this row, has to be here. Don't know if we can probably do some other things, but I'm not immediately seeing. I do see I've got a 4, 5 pair here as well. So 2, 3 and 8. So that square is 3 or 8. That square is 2, 3 or 8. Can we do... It must basically be Sudoku now, I think. Oh no, look, I've not used that clue. 12. Okay, so those digits add up to... Oh, how does that work? There we go. There's only one way I can make those two digits add up to 12. That's got to be 8, that's got to be 4. Which means that digit is now a 6. Oh, I've nearly managed to get 6 onto the line here. All sorts of 2s and 3s going on. What about those squares then? They've got to be 2s, 4s and 5s. Which doesn't seem to be affecting anything. Ah! What's the simple way of doing this then? That 4 is not... Oh, that 4 is what's doing it, isn't it? So that becomes 5. So that's got to be 6. And now that's a 4. So that's a 5. That's a 6. And presumably, he says, hoping against hope, this is going to finish the puzzle. That's not 6 anymore. So this is 2 or... Oh, that's 2 or 3, creating a 2, 3 pair in that column. So that's got to be a 4, that's got to be a 4, that's got to be a 3. Ah! And that's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. Now that's an 8 by Sudoku now. I've got all these 2 3s going on. I hope this is resolving itself in the fullness of time. I've got a 2 5 pair here, so that becomes a 4. Ah, another 2 3 here. Oopsie. This feels wrong. Now I've got a 5 here by Sudoku. That gives me 2 3 5. Ah, maybe that 3 is doing the work. 2 3 8. Yeah, look, 3 2 2 3 2 3 2 3. Good grief. And the puzzle's finished out of nowhere. Let's click. Ah! This doesn't look right. Why doesn't it look right? Oh, it's highlighted in red a lot of things here. Hang on. Oh, is it trying to... Maybe it's saying I've got 2... Hang on, let me click it again. I see. Look, it's noticed I've got 2 7s in row 6. I haven't really got 2 7s. In the Sudoku grid itself, I've only got 1 7. That, it's saying, is a problem. Oh, it's because I've got 2 7s in this column. 2 5s in this column. Aha! So maybe we can almost prove this by just finding repeats. Now that 8 is repeated, why is that? That 9 is repeated. Yes, so I think it's just found where I've repeated digits in columns and rows because of the sandwich clues outside the grid. They seem to be the only errors it's found. So I think this is the correct solution. And, well, I think that is an absolutely beautiful puzzle. It's quite tricky to get started, and it's quite difficult. I got really stuck in the middle because I couldn't see where the 1 went. I knew the 1 had to be in one of those squares in column 5, but I didn't understand how to pinpoint its position. And had I spotted the problem with this digit being a 1, which was, it was complicated for me because I didn't appreciate that these 2 digits were going to create a problem in row 5. Yeah, because it just doesn't seem like they should, and yet they do. I mean, it's just a beautiful piece of setting. It's an incredibly original idea, let alone back then when purple lines were not a thing. I can even see from the way this has been put into our software that ren and ban are separate words. And now renban is just an expression in Sudoku variants, and it's one word. So this was set a long time ago, and yet it stood the test of time, and more. So Rocky Rower, take another bow. We should be genuflecting before you, I think. Love the puzzle. Let me know how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.